Imagine living happily with your husband for 8 years, having 3 children together, only to discover that he died in a car accident long before you even met him. I mean, he married you, had 3 children with you, and was still buried in his village at the same time. Sounds crazy, right? Well, wait till you hear this true life story that will leave your mouth wide open. David Ukele was the kind of young man mothers prayed for and fathers used as examples when advising stubborn sons. At just 27, he had already made a name for himself in the auto parts business. People in Imo State knew him as the small boy with big energy. He could carry 2 car engines at once, smile with neat white teeth, and still have the strength to argue about football at the end of the day. For 7 years, David had served as an apprentice under a strict master. He woke up before dawn, swept the floor, memorized the names of spare parts, and learned how to deal with customers. When he finally graduated, his master settled him with some startup money and some auto parts and blessed him. That was when David's life turned around. He opened his own shop, and within 2 years, people were already saying, "That boy will soon be a multi-millionaire." But David wasn't just hardworking. He was also kind. His mother, popularly known as Mama Dave, had lost her husband years ago and struggled alone to raise her children. David, her only son, became her pride and joy. David's 2 elder sisters were married, but it was David who trained their children, paying school fees and sending provisions to their homes. Whenever people asked Mama Dave, "When will your son marry? You know he is an only son," she would smile proudly and say, "Let him finish the house he is building first. Then you people will see a wedding that will shake this village." True to her words, David was already building a fine bungalow in the village. He would come home every weekend, dressed neatly in his checkered shirts and polished shoes, walk around the site and say to his mother, "Mama, don't worry. Once this roof is up, I will bring you a fine wife." His mother would laugh and reply, "Don't bring me one of those lazy girls who cannot even pound the ammo." Both of them would laugh and joke about the future. But life, as people say, does not always wait for our plans. One Saturday afternoon, David traveled to a nearby town for the burial of his friend's mother. He looked smart in his white native wear and red cap. He greeted everyone warmly, gave his friend some money as a condolence gift. Then, after the burial, he entered a bus to return home. The road was wet from the rain, the sky already dark. As the bus sped along the highway, people inside were chatting. Some were laughing, while some were cautioning the driver to slow down. Then, suddenly, there was a loud screech of tires, a violent swerve, and before anyone could shout, "Jesus!" the bus somersaulted, metal clashed, glass shattered, and the night was filled with screams. By the time villagers gathered at the scene with lanterns, David's body was among the bodies lying lifeless on the ground. When the news reached Mama Dave, she collapsed, crying, "Chimo, my only son, my star, what have I done to deserve this? This cannot be true. Who did I offend? God, where are you?" His sisters rushed from their husbands' homes, wailing and rolling on the floor. The entire village mourned with them. The boy who was supposed to marry soon, the boy who was supposed to carry his mother out of poverty, was gone. Or so they thought. While Mama Dave and her daughters were mourning in Imo State, something strange was happening hundreds of kilometers away in the far north. There, in the middle of a bustling motor spare parts market in Kano, stood David, the same David who was supposed to be in the grave. The same David had gotten a shop and equipped it with different auto parts. His shop was one of the busiest. Traders hailed him, customers trusted him, and apprentices ran up and down carrying goods. David laughed often, counted his money with joy, and spoke Hausa like he was born there. To everyone around, he was a successful young man who had worked his way up from nothing. But to David's girlfriend, Bukola, he was more than just a businessman. He was her whole world. Bukola was a tall, beautiful Yoruba woman with a sharp tongue and a warm heart. She met David when she came to buy brake parts for her father at his shop. He had helped her carry the parts to a waiting taxi while cracking jokes along the way and exchanging phone numbers. From that day, their story began. Soon, Bukola and David became inseparable. Their relationship grew very serious that Bukola was practically living with him. Funny enough, life seemed perfect. When Bukola asked him about his family, David would always sigh deeply and say, "I don't have anybody. I'm an orphan. My parents died when I was small and I grew up on the streets." His sad expression always melted Bukola's heart. "Don't worry," Bukola would say, patting his back. "I am your family now." Bukola gave birth to their first child, a boy. David was overjoyed. "This boy will be greater than me," he said proudly, lifting the baby up like a trophy. A few years later, Bukola gave birth to a girl, and then another boy. Their small apartment became noisy with the laughter and cries of children. Neighbors often envied them. "See how David loves his family. He doesn't joke with them at all, oh," they would whisper. David always carried his children on his shoulders, bought them toys, and played football with them in the evenings. He called Bukola Iyawomi, meaning my wife, and she would blush like a schoolgirl every time. Yet, in all their joy, there was something odd about David. Whenever Bukola said, "Let's travel to your village so I can greet your relations even though your parents are no longer alive. My family knows you, but we don't know anything else about you," David would cough and say, No, I don't even know where I come from again. I was very little when they died, and I was hungry and lonely. I found my way to the north when I hid inside a truck that had brought oranges from the north to the east. I hid inside to eat some of the spoiled oranges and didn't know when the truck brought me here. I struggled and worked hard to get to where I am today. So, my life is here. Forget about the past. At first, Bukola believed him. She was too busy raising their children and enjoyed their life together. But sometimes she wondered to herself, how could a man not know a single relative, not even a cousin, not even a neighbor from childhood? Whenever she asked too many questions, David would distract her with laughter. "See your fine face," he would say, pinching her cheek. "Stop frowning like this, or I will kiss you in front of everybody tomorrow in the compound." Bukola would laugh and chase him out of the kitchen. For 8 years, life went on like that. They had challenges like every couple. Money sometimes got tight. Children fell sick. Neighbors quarreled with them over water. But overall, they were happy. Bukola was proud of her man. Her children adored their father, and David seemed contented. Nobody suspected that this loving husband and father was supposed to be lying cold in the ground back in Imo State. Not until the day everything shattered. And that day was a hot Wednesday afternoon in Kano. The sun blazed down on the busy auto parts market. Traders were sweating as they shouted prices to customers. David was in his shop laughing with a customer. His apprentices were busy packaging other customers' goods. Business was good. Suddenly, A man entered the shop to buy some parts. He looked around and paused. He squinted, rubbed his eyes, and then looked again. His heart skipped. The man's name was Chike, a trader from Imo State who had come to buy some goods in Kano. Chike muttered to himself, "Wait oh, this face, it cannot be." He stepped closer, his eyes fixed on David. "No way," he whispered under his breath. "Is this not David Bukola, the boy that died years ago in our village?" As he got nearer, his mouth fell open. He finally shouted, David Bukola, is this not you?" The entire shop froze. Customers turned. Apprentices stared. David's hands began to shake. His face went pale. "Who are you calling David?" David asked sharply, forcing a smile. "My name is Musa. You must be mistaking me for someone else." But Chike wasn't fooled. He stepped closer to him, his eyes blazing. "Don't lie to me. I know you. You are David, the only son of Mama Dave from Umuohia village. I even attended your burial. Are you not the one who died in that ghastly accident?" Before anyone could blink, something terrifying happened. David's body flickered like a shadow under the sun, and in the next second, he vanished. Not only did David disappear, but all his auto parts disappeared with him. Brake parts, fan belts, carburetors gone into thin air. The shop that was full seconds ago suddenly became empty. "Walai talai, this one na ghost oh!" One customer screamed, running out of the shop. "Blood of Jesus," another shouted, diving under the counter. Women in the market screamed, clutching their wrappers and hijabs, while some men ran, knocking over trays of fresh tomatoes. Chike stood trembling, his hands on his head. "I knew it! I knew this was David Bukola. Chimo, the boy we buried, has been living here." Within minutes, the market was in chaos. Traders abandoned their stalls, some running barefoot, others shouting prayers at the top of their lungs. When Bukola heard what happened, she laughed angrily. "Oh, are you people mad? Which nonsense ghost? That is my husband you people are talking about. He just stepped out of this house this morning. You traders like gossip too much oh." Chike even marched to David's house, which was not too far from the shop, just to convince Bukola. "Madam, I'm sorry, but you have been living with a ghost. That man is not ordinary. I am from his village. I was there when he died. I was there when they buried him. What you married is not a man. It is a ghost." Bukola's heart pounded, but she shook her head stubbornly. "God forbid. My husband is not a ghost. He eats. He laughs. He even snores at night. Stop talking nonsense and tell me what you did with my husband." Chike leaned forward, his eyes serious. "If you don't believe me, madam, come with me to his village. Let me show you his grave with your own eyes." And that was how Bukola's world turned upside down. Bukola hardly slept that night. She tossed and turned, replaying Chike's words over and over in her head and thinking to herself, "How can my David be a ghost? Impossible. I cooked for him yesterday. He carried our last child on his back the day before. Ghosts don't buy diapers and pay rent." By morning, she made up her mind. She would follow Chike to his so-called village and prove once and for all that people were just trying to confuse her. The journey to Imo State was long. Bukola sat in silence most of the way, her two hands wrapped tightly around her handbag. Her three children also sat in their various seats. Chike, who sat close by, kept stealing glances at her, shaking his head and muttering under his breath, "Chai, poor woman. She doesn't know she has been living with a spirit." After a long journey on the road that took more than one day, they finally arrived at Umuohia village. Chike led her through the narrow, dusty paths until they reached a compound. There, sitting on a wooden chair under a mango tree, was an elderly woman with a wrapper tied tightly across her chest. Her eyes were tired. "Mama Dave," Chike greeted softly, kneeling before her. "Good afternoon, ma. Please don't be afraid, but I brought someone to see you." The old woman looked up, curious. Bukola stepped forward nervously. "Mama," Chike continued, "this is Bukola. She has been living with your son." The woman's eyes widened. "My son? Which son?" "David," Chike replied. The moment his name was mentioned, Mama Dave's body shook. She gripped her wrapper tightly, her lips quivering. "Don't mention that name to me again," she said in a trembling voice. "My David has been gone for 8 years, buried with my own 2 hands." Bukola gasped. "No, Mama, it cannot be. I live with him. We have 3 children together. He is not dead." The old woman's cry pierced the compound. "Ewo! My enemies want to scatter my head again. First, they took my son from me, and now you say he is alive. Show me where. Where is he alive? Let me go to him." Neighbors gathered quickly, drawn by the commotion. "What is happening? Who is this strange woman? Did she say David?" People whispered, craning their necks. Chike raised his hand for silence. "Mama, let us show her. She will not believe unless she sees." Reluctantly, the old woman stood up, leaning on her walking stick, with Bukola, Chike, and a crowd of neighbors following. They walked to the family compound. There, hanging on the wall in the sitting room, was a framed picture of David, the same David Bukola knew, smiling in his neat shirt. Bukola's knees buckled as she fell to her knees. "Jesus, this is him! This is my husband!" she wailed. Mama Dave collapsed into a chair, her chest heaving. "That is my son, my only son, but he is gone. You people have opened up a wound I have been trying to cover since," she cried. They took Bukola outside to the backyard, and there, under the shade of a tree, was a cemented grave with the inscription that read, "Here lies David Ukele, born 1986, died 2013. Bukola's scream tore through the village. She threw herself on the grave, rolling on the floor, clutching at the soil. "No! David, you told me you were an orphan. You gave me children. How could you lie to me? How could you die and still come to me? David, no, you must answer me. You must show yourself now. What do I tell my children? What do I tell the children you had with me? David, no, you cannot be dead. This must be a big joke," she said as she continued wailing. The villagers shook their heads in disbelief. Some were already crying, others whispering prayers, and a few muttered, "Strange things are happening, oh." David's sisters soon arrived after hearing what had happened. Their wrappers were even loose from rushing. When they saw Bukola rolling on the grave, they joined her, crying loudly, "Brother Mo, so you went to marry in the spirit world. You didn't even give us a hint. Oh, Brother Mo." The wailing continued for hours until neighbors had to beg them to calm down. Evening fell on Umuohia village, but the compound of Mama Dave was still filled with people. Some sat on wooden benches, others stood in clusters, whispering as if afraid the ghost of David might suddenly appear. Children peeped from behind their mothers' wrappers, eyes wide with curiosity. Bukola sat on the bare floor, her face swollen from crying. Her 3 children clung to her, confused. The oldest boy asked innocently, "Mommy, why are you crying? Where is Daddy? When are we going home? Her chest broke again. She hugged him tightly and sobbed. Your daddy is gone, oh! Your daddy is gone. Mama Dave, weak and trembling, was supported by her daughters. She stared at the children for a long time, her lips quivering. Finally, she whispered, These are David's children. His blood is in them. My son may be gone, but he left something behind. The elder sister, Adeze, shook her head in disbelief. Mama, so it is true. So this thing they say about dead people going to another place to continue their life is true. So our brother came back only to marry in secret and father children as a spirit? The second sister, Ngozi, wiped her eyes and said, It is strange, but these children are innocent. They belong to us now. The villagers murmured in agreement. Some were still shocked, others amused. One man chuckled nervously. At least, the ghost was not useless. He left a legacy. The crowd erupted into uneasy laughter, breaking the heavy silence. Bukola looked around helplessly. So what do I do now? For 8 years I lived with him, thinking he was my husband. I cooked for him. I bore him these children. I shared my life with him. And now you tell me he has been dead all this while? Am I cursed? She asked. Mama Dave dragged herself closer and held Bukola's hand. My daughter, you are not cursed. You were chosen. Maybe my son's spirit wanted children before resting. And you gave him that chance. You are part of this family now. Bukola burst into tears again, but this time she clung to Mama Dave like a daughter clings to a mother. The old woman stroked her back gently, crying too. Neighbors wiped their eyes at the sight. Now it all makes sense. David told me he was an orphan and could not even locate where he came from. He also set up a trust fund with an insurance company that will see his children all through their education to university level. I always wondered why he made such huge investments in their education and even life insurance. And he said he didn't want his children to suffer if anything happened to him. Now it all makes sense, she said, still battling with tears. By nightfall, a decision was made. Bukola and her children would remain connected to the Ukele family. The children will bear their father's name and know their roots, even if their father was gone. And Bukola was free to decide whether she would stay connected to the family or start her life with someone else. As people began to leave the compound, gossip filled the air, with one of them saying, Have you ever heard of such before? Another one replied, A man dying in Imo and living in Kano. I have heard of such stories, but never believed it until now. And those children, they look exactly like him. This world is deeper than we think. Dead people coming out again. But where do they get the flesh from now? Because their bodies are usually buried. Another one asked. Then one woman shouted from the crowd, But at least the ghost was responsible. He planned for his family after death too. This my own husband that is alive cannot even pay school fees. Maybe I should start looking for a dead but alive responsible man too. The crowd roared with laughter. Later, when everyone was calmer, Chike, the man who had uncovered the secret, spoke. Let this be a lesson to all of us. When someone says they are an orphan, don't just believe. Ask questions. Find out where they come from. If they claim to be an orphan, ask for someone they grew up with, because strange things are happening in this world. Mama Dave nodded slowly, tears glistening in her eyes. Yes, very strange things. Bukola looked at her children, then at the grave of David. Then she whispered, "Rest well, David. You gave me love, you gave me children, but you gave me a story no one will ever forget." The night wind blew gently through the tree above the grave, as if the spirit of David himself was listening. Thank you so much for watching the story, besties. Have you heard of such story before? Please let me know in the comment section. I would love to hear from you on what you think about the story. Also, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And also click the notification bell beside the subscribe button to be notified each time I drop a new video. Until I come your way again soon, stay happy.